Have you ever wondered what would happen if you for a moment strayed from your path?
My treasure is immense. So much, so I must always be on the defense.
Took a left instead of a right, opened a random door, and had a peek inside.
Not a 3-man entering that elevator. Must appear cordial. Okay, focus.
There are stories all around you if you take a moment to observe.
The whole city smells like rat.
And ask yourself, I hope I can still have a relationship with my father after all these years. What can be found behind the 6th door to the left?
And just as terrible my anger, if set free.
Divine Rodentia Studios presents 6th Door to the Left, a infrequently updated anthology feed for short stories that cannot fit anywhere else. Take the path least traveled and give it a listen. 6th Door to the Left is available anywhere you find your podcasts. This has been a production by Divine Rodentia Studios.
This podcast contains adult content suitable for mature audiences only. A full list of our trigger warnings will be found down in our show notes. Listener discretion is advised.
When your fears have taken their toll, when the demons have got out of control, when the shadows just won't leave you alone, I'll be there. When your rainbows have turned into black, when the sun has turned its back, when all of your power let itself dry, I'll be
Welcome, my dear, dear traveler, to the Morbid Forest. Hello, my sweet little Spy-Day. Care to join me? Yes. Everything is fine. Just off today. Being the guardian of these wandering travelers does get tiresome at times. No, it isn't because of him. At least, this doesn't feel like his brand of magic. It's been so long since he's tested me, wormed his way into my being to control me. Thought I was very, very much past that. Although at any rate, the travelers depend on me to be prepared for anything. So perhaps your theory is worth exploring. But for now, I want to focus on clearing whatever is blocking my normal tendencies. Yes, in a way, it does feel like there's something inside of me.
I was once an ordinary man. My life was mundane and uneventful, and honestly, I loved it being that way. Parties and socializing terrified me. I've always been afraid to be in a large group of people, and I'm awkward to the point of it being painful. What I mean is that I become overstimulated, which births a panic attack, and eventually, I vomit whatever I've eaten at said event, which is rather embarrassing. Being alone suited me just fine. Believe it or not, I've been able to maintain relationships with the opposite sex. I've had several serious girlfriends, but none lasted 6 months. Eventually, They tire of staying home with me and watching movies or TV shows. They will want to hang out with their friends and show me off to them like some prized show dog. Then their friends are weirded out at how I stand around, barely speaking. The woman will find some way to call it quits and move on to someone more suited to their social needs. That is, until I met Emma. Emma and I have been together for 7 years now and married for 5 of them. We've created a relationship that neither of us thought achievable, both sought after in our dreams. She's like me in that she hates socializing, loves watching horror movies and TV shows, and has no desire to be anywhere without me. It's wonderful. One night, I was awakened from sleep by the sudden horror of suffocation. I bolted upright in bed, clutching at my throat. Something was stuck in my throat. I could feel its little feet slowly crawling individually down the fleshy tube. Each little movement felt like a tiny needle digging into me from the inside. I managed to wake Emma by slapping her in panic.
What's going on?
It took a few moments for her brain to register that this was real and not some lucid nightmare.
Oh my God, Paul!
She wrapped her arms around my midsection and began to perform a very rough version of the Heimlich maneuver. 1, 2, 3. Instead of popping out of my mouth, whatever the thing was fell into my stomach. I could feel the thing plop into the space and burrow itself into my stomach wall. I'm not sure how to describe what that felt like, but the pain was enough to make me double over in jaw-clenching agony. But strangely, once the thing was done, I no longer felt pain. We both concluded that it must have been the Chinese takeout we had for dinner, that maybe I had vomited some of it up in my throat, where it became lodged and caused that bit of traumatic hell. Emma handled it with the tenderness of a sweet, loving angel, making me feel completely safe and secure. About an hour later, I drifted back to sleep peacefully. The next day, I felt fine, decided to go to work. While at work, I can fake my way through any social situation with an occasional wow or that's crazy. Maybe even add a smile or nod for good measure. Most of the day, though, I am in my little cubicle by my lonesome. I answer my tickets promptly and calls when needed, but otherwise, the ship stays afloat without me needing to leave my pod. As lunch approached, I found the hunger pains more intense than usual. That morning, I stopped at a convenience store to refuel the car and bought a breakfast sandwich and one of those pre-made bottled iced coffees that are way overpriced. I usually don't, but after the episode the night before that caused a lack of sleep, I needed something to kick me into gear. The clerk, an awkward-looking brunette girl I probably would have fancied in my younger years, was nice enough to warm up the sandwich. But it hadn't been enough to satiate my stomach. About an hour before I was meant to pick up my lunch from the restaurant across the street, I began to feel sick with hunger. It's that feeling where you might pass out if you don't eat something soon. I dug through my desk for loose change for the vending machines, but no such luck. Then, I found it. As I opened the last drawer of my desk, a pencil rolled into view. My growling stomach told my brain, eat it. And so, I did without any hesitation. I chomped into the wood like it was a damn chocolate bar. And holy crap, did it feel like I was eating one. My brain broke into the same endorphin rush only the best candy bars can induce. Splinters of wood stabbed into my gums and the roof of my mouth, but it didn't hurt. No, I would say the sensation was nearly orgasmic. I chewed and chewed until the wood was down to the little metal nib where the eraser was, which I discovered is called the ferrule. I hastily removed the little pink chunk of rubber and popped it into my mouth like a gumball. I'm just thankful nobody walked in my cubicle while this was happening. It didn't stop there. When I made it home, Emma had gone to the grocery store. I searched around the refrigerator, the cabinets, and the dry goods cupboard, but found nothing appetizing. My mouth was dry, my stomach an earthquake of growling and tightness. As I was exiting the kitchen, my eyes locked on the kitchen sponge. It was still moist from Emma cleaning the dishes sometime earlier in the day. I picked it up and inhaled the scent of the menagerie of old food, crust, and probably bacteria it had wiped away during its lifetime. The odors drove my taste buds mad. I had to take a bite. My teeth sank into the juicy polyurethane, and my mouth flooded with dirty water. The sensors in my brain reacted as if I had just taken a large gulp of an ice-cold soda on a hot day. I ripped a chunk off of the sponge the same way you would do with a thick steak. I chewed the piece, wringing every drop of moisture from it before I swallowed it. I did this repeatedly until the last piece entered my increasingly content stomach. After these strange mastications, my appetite would return to normal. This went on for over 2 weeks. I would eat whatever my stomach suddenly decided it wanted to, from crayons to various paper products to a urinal cake I glanced at in the office restroom, until the cravings began to change. One morning, on my way to work, I was driving around a sharp curve when I noticed a dead squirrel lying on the road. My front right tire nearly hit it, but I was careful not to. I had plans for the deceased critter. Its death must have been painless, since once I pulled over and got out to examine it, I discovered its head was nothing but a mushy puddle on the road. I squatted down to examine the poor creature and to say a short prayer, but then the smell of its blood and brains wafted up my nose, activating something in me. I saw a car coming from the other direction, so I scooped up the remains, wrapped them tightly in a plastic bag, and tucked them into my lunchbox. By the time I had done this, the car had passed me moments before. I squatted down again at the spot where it died. I have to admit it, but I licked it. I licked the asphalt slowly but eagerly, like a child with a delicious lollipop. Bits of fur and bodily matter caked the inside of my mouth, but it was the blood I was craving. Another car came around the bend, forcing me to stop and jump back into my car. I wiped my mouth with napkins from a fast food joint and chugged a coffee to get the smell off my breath. When that didn't work, I ate a handful of breath mints I had learned to keep handy for when those urges hit. At lunch today, I hid in the bathroom with my newly found prize. It felt like Christmas Day as I unwrapped the precious little gift. My normal mind took a back seat as I devoured the little corpse with the voracity of a starving wolf. Once I had eaten every piece of meat from the creature, I flushed the remains down the toilet and then washed off the aftermath in the sink. About 30 minutes later, someone walked by my cube while chatting with someone.
It smelled like a friggin' corpse in there. Ugh, whoever did that needs to see a doctor ASAP.
I had to cover my mouth to stifle the laugh that came out of me. I couldn't stop myself. This horrible new habit I had to hide from everyone was making me insane. It was a tremendous effort to keep this from Emma. I couldn't let her find out, even if that meant lying to her. Having her even want to be around me was a miracle in and of itself. If she found out about my dirty secret, I was afraid she'd leave me for sure. Looking back, I don't think I laughed because I thought it was funny. I was laughing because I was terrified. It only continued to get worse from there. Roadkill satisfied those cravings for a time. The only ones that seemed to quench it for the longest time were the fresh ones that still had some blood left. I found myself intentionally swerving or speeding up to hit a rabbit or snake or even a bird if I had the chance. Birds are much more difficult to hit intentionally. I killed more in my driving history unintentionally than I ever did on purpose. The cravings were turning me into a feral beast, hell-bent on doing anything possible to achieve satisfaction. I wondered if this is how junkies feel, the insatiable urge to curb the desire no matter the cost. During this stage, there were a few times that Emma nearly caught me. I had been eating a dead possum off and on for an entire Saturday, hiding it inside the toilet tank in a plastic tub. I realized I hadn't thought of a way to dispose of it without her knowing. I tried to sneak outside, but she was stationary on the couch by the front door, reading a new book. I couldn't dump it out the window because then there'd be questions about who left the animal carcass, and it could point back to me. In a panic, I decided to try to flush the bones. Luckily, the head had been obliterated by traffic, so all that I had to flush were the smaller bones. At least, I thought that was going to be easy enough. The toilet began to back up and flood the bathroom. I began to yell obscenities and desperately tried to plunge the remains back down, but nothing was working. Emma heard the commotion and came in.
What's going on?
The damn toilet backed up.
Oh God, Paul. It smells like a corpse in here. What did you eat?
I think something got into the pipes and died. She did her best to help, but we were unsuccessful. When she proposed calling the landlord, I relented. They called a plumber, who was at our apartment within a few hours.
I'll be damned. Not the first time I've seen this, but it's not very common. Looks like you got a dead rat, a raccoon, or something that got into the sewer pipes and drowned. Looks like a big old bastard, too.
The plumber told us, laughing at his observation. No kidding! The carpet had to be replaced, but the wood underneath appeared okay, according to the landlord. They were nice enough not to charge us anything for the accident. Emma never questioned what the plumber concluded. We went on with our lives. I, on the other hand, was turning into something that could have only existed in my nightmares before the choking incident. The cravings turned from occasionally running things over to me actively looking for small animals to kill. The odd snacking still occurs. Sometimes I'll drink liquid paper, eat the stuffing from chairs, even drink glass cleaner. How all of this stuff hasn't killed me, I'll never know. Whatever triggers my hunger, I can't say no. I physically can't stop myself. It had become a full-blown addiction. I was tracking down a stray dog when a homeless man grabbed me by the sleeve.
Hey, mister, you got $5 to spare?
His breath rank of cheap vodka and tooth decay. He didn't appear to have bathed in months, maybe even years. The poor fellow didn't expect me to pounce on him and tear at his jugular with my teeth. He was the first. Things have not been so simple since that started. Sure, I still get the urge to consume manufactured products and the occasional roadkill, but when the craving for meat hits, I try to stay away from other people. I do everything I can not to do it. The only thing I could think to do was fully restrain myself, which is where I'm going with this. The last and final straw hit me last night. Emma and I were watching one of our favorite paranormal shows when we decided it was time for bed. We made love and just laid there in the bliss of it. I rolled over and noticed that she had a scab on her leg from shaving. I picked at it and she winced.
Careful. I decided to shave my Sasquatch legs finally. Did you notice?
No, just did.
Are you okay?
She noticed that I was trembling. My muscles began to tighten and sweat began to flow from every pore. I excused myself and went to the bathroom. She knocked on the door to check on me again. I told her I was fine. I came out 30 minutes later and she was asleep. Thank God. Thank whatever God is up there that I could get out of there. I went into the kitchen and ate an entire pack of raw hamburger meat to at least drive down the intensity. After sneaking out the front door and down to my car, I began to run. No! Please, God, not her. Anyone but her. I can't. I just can't. I started thinking about ways to end my life. I concluded it was the only way to stop this unbearable condition once and for all. I don't own a gun, but I have several large knives I've collected since I was a teenager. That sounded like it would be too traumatic. What if Emma found me like that? I couldn't just leave her. I waited for her my entire life. And I'd leave her in such a cowardly act? I knew from my experiences that pills or other chemicals would probably not affect me in the same way as an ordinary person. What else could I do? I thought of one other way. I'm turning myself in. Over the last 2 years, I've killed and partially consumed 14 people across 3 neighboring states. Emma will not be one of them. I can't hide this anymore, and she will not become another victim of this never-ending madness. I don't know how I've managed to keep this up for so long. I suppose it was the desire not to lose her that kept me going. Emma, if you're reading or listening to this, I hope you know how much I love you. There's something inside of me that I can't stop, that I can't control, and I don't believe I can ever be truly rid of it. If I catch a certain smell of you, I don't know if I can escape before it takes hold. I can't risk it. I hope you find happiness again, and I hope you find someone better. This was that thing that crawled into my mouth that fateful night. I hope you find someone who doesn't turn into a cannibalistic monster.
This has been a Morbid Forest production, and on this week's episode you've heard There's Something Inside of Me, written by Brandon Willis, featuring the voice talent of Shawn Conkling-Methot as Paul, Emma as Glenda Villamar, the Coworker as Naomi Richards, the Plumber as Kyle Bone, and the Homeless Beggar as Shawn Moreau. Story editing and audio production by Naomi Richards. Our theme music this season is The Shadows by Nandi Bushhill. Music and sound effects provided by Epidemic Sound. Don't forget to check out The Sixth Door to the Left. Sixth Door to the Left is an infrequently updated fiction anthology feed for short stories that needs to be told. Tone may vary greatly as they ask the question, what's behind door number 6? The Sixth Door to the Left is a Divine Rodentia Studios production. Follow us on X, or Twitter for the old school, Instagram and Discord and Threads to stay up to date on all the happenings within the forest. Interested in more morsels of the forest? Join our Patreon. As a faithful traveler, you'll receive exclusive access to early episode releases, bonus content, and deals on merch for only $3 a month. That's patreon.com/The Morbid Forest. And with that, we'll see you next time, travelers, on The Morbid Forest.